Alright folks, hello, this is Clog from Discord. Some of you may be hearing me for the first time. So I've decided to make this brief video guide, primarily to actually test out my audio recording equipment as well as how the recording comes out, because I intend to make more comprehensive video guides for modding DoW2, including setting up the environment, the tools, as well as actually editing models, animations, and so forth. So without further ado, I just want to clarify again that this is just a brief guide to demonstrate how I've streamlined the process of getting models from FBXs, say from Blender out to an FBX, into 3ds Max, and then into DoW2, including the animations. So I should minimize this. Alright, so as you can see here, I have a Gore-based model from Warhammer Total War, Warhammer Fantasy, sorry. And I'm going to attempt to sort of export this as well as alright, apologies, I got interrupted there. So I'm going to attempt to export this model into an FBX that's compatible with 3ds Max, and then use Santos tools, which is the utility we use as DoW2 modders to edit models, to import models into here and export them in formats that are compatible with DoW2. Alright, so as you can see here, we've got a Gore-based model from Warhammer Fantasy Total War, and it's rigged. You can see here it's attached to it's attached to the skeleton. I got the mesh. Alright, sorry about that folks, got interrupted again. So as I was saying, I got this Beast Gore model from Warhammer Fantasy Total War, and I'm going to attempt to export it to an FBX, import it into 3ds Max and into DoW2, along with its animation that you can see here. Actually, you can't see the keyframes here because I don't have the skeleton selected. There it is. Alright, so I just want to say that I don't condone it anyway, illegally using others' art or anything like that in your projects that you're going to use and commercialize. So this is just for demonstrational purposes. So I'm going to go ahead and attempt to export this mesh without the materials. I'm going to apply the materials in 3ds Max. So I'm going to export it as an FBX. I'm going to make sure I change it to 6.1 ASCII because that's the one that's compatible with 3ds Max 2010, which is the one I'm using. And then I'm going to check off the animations as well to make sure I export those. I'm just going to export it to desktop, and I'm going to overwrite this one that I've exported before while practicing for this video. So I'm going to double click that, export it, done. So I should be done with Blender now. I think I can minimize it and sort of pull this over here. I'll need some of these desktop files. So this is the actual file that I've just exported from Blender. Alright folks, so I paused the recording and I'm going to carry on now. Alright folks, so I'm in my 3ds Max and I'm going to attempt to import the model that I exported from Blender. Make sure this is recording. Alright, so there's my model. I want to make sure of a couple of things, that my animations are indeed checked off, and I do this thing where I prefer to convert the bones to dummies just because they're easier to work with, and then I'll convert them back to bones once they're in my scene. And then I also want to make sure the scale, because the Blender and 3ds Max unit scales are different. So based on my testing, I know centimeter scales it well. Of course, I can always scale it within my scene, but here's our Gore-based model. As you can see, it's an impressive 17K polys, or close to 18K. So there's my model. So while resetting my scene, I actually remove the materials. So I'm going to import the materials, but again, this isn't the video to demonstrate how that's done. That's for another video for another time. But I do seriously intend to do a video guide and all that stuff in the coming future, in the near future. So I actually have the materials on this model. I'm just going to import this model, just the material aspect of it. There are my materials. I'm going to go ahead and apply them. Now another thing is I imported the, this is the actual, let me show you the schematic view. This is the actual schematic view of my core beast. So this is the mesh, and everything else is the rig. So I can also show you that I imported the animations here. That's the idle animation, and so if I actually select all these, select similar. So I'm just selecting the rig here. It's now in the form of dummies, but I'll convert them to bones just now. But here are the keys, you can see them. Now this is how I convert them into bones. I go to bone tools, under object properties, turn them into bones. So as long as this is checked off, they're now bones. They're considered bones as bone objects in the way 3ds Max understands them. If I select this mesh, for example, it's not a bone. It's not checked off, but if I select this, it's a bone. Although the actual object is like it shows dummy here. It's described as a dummy. It's actually a bone under the hood. Right, so with that done, exporting it using CentOS tools shouldn't be a problem. It's a matter of choosing. So I've already worked on some, I've already exported this model before, just when I was testing or processing for this video. So I have GoreBeast and GoreBeast 2. I'm going to export it to GoreBeast 3 just to show you that I'm doing this from scratch. So export model. It's taken a while, as you can see. Okay, so this is supposed to be the log and it's covered, but it's going to take some time, like 20 seconds, because this is a sizable model. Give it a moment. And if I open model editor here, you should see it's created, but there's nothing in here because it's not done exporting. But as you can see now, it's finished, and I should be able to open it. Alright, so there's my core beast. Cool, but as of now, it has no animations. So that's the next step. So my animations luckily are in here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, and by the way, CentOS Tools just created a skeleton root that's required to be at the head of the hierarchy of every DoW2 model. We can actually see that here. CentOS Tools created this as the parent of my entire hierarchy. As you can even see it here. It's the parent of my whole hierarchy. Alright, so now for animations. Now this is the part of the process that I've streamlined. So essentially I'm going to use a 3ds Max script as well as a script I've written and that I've packed into an AXE, and demonstrate how easy it is to actually get animations that are completely foreign to DoW2 into DoW2. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is let me try to hide this mesh. Okay, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but I'm going to unhide it, and what I'm going to do is select it another way. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to select everything except for the mesh, or except for the mesh object. So now I have everything selected. It's whitened, as you can see here. There's a step before this. What I need to do is I need to save this scene file, so I'm going to go ahead and save it. I have a folder under my desktop. I have a folder named GoreBeast, and I actually already have a Max scene file saved from when I was practicing for this video. So I'm going to go ahead and overwrite it. Yes. So now, as you can see, the name has changed. Now this is important for CentOS Tools to import your animations. It needs to have a Max scene file. Let me open the folder that I saved it in. So let me delete this as well. Let me delete these. We're going to create these using my script. So this is the scene file right now that's open. And so CentOS Tools, when I want to export the animations here, so export animation, it needs to have three things. So it needs to have a scene file. This one needs to be saved. With this scene file, it needs to have a .rig and .tracks file. Essentially, two files that tell CentOS Tools, which communicates with Havoc. It basically tells CentOS Tools that I have the following bones in my rig, and as well as the tracks. The tracks are basically how those bones move. All right, so you got rotation, position, and scale for each of the frames, for each of the keyframes here, right? So that's essentially why those .rig and .tracks files are required. I will go into further depth in my animation video guide. So So this is the process. So I have the rig selected. Oops, no I don't. So let me select everything. Let me unselect this. So now I have the rig selected. I'm going to use this 3ds Max script by just dragging it and putting it here. What this is going to do is going to create a list of all the bones I have, or everything I have selected actually. So all my bones, with the exception of the mesh. So you should see a file get created here that's called bones.csv. Alright, so I'm going to drag it here, and there it is. So what's in here? Well, just a list of bones, as you can see. Alright, I know I have a fake version of Office. Right, so now my script is going to go ahead and read this file, and it's going to create a rig and a tracks files. Right here. So it's actually going to take the name of the max scene file that has the animation and create rig and tracks files. I'm going to go ahead and attempt to export animation now. Alright. Desktop. Oh, by the way, importing and exporting animations can be done anywhere. I'm just going to keep it in here for the sake of consistency. I'm also going to make sure I don't have it already. Oh, so I do. So to demonstrate I'm doing this from scratch, this thing is going to export a Havoc HKX file. So I don't have a Havoc HKX file anywhere here, as you can see. I'm going to go ahead and export it. Wait, what am I doing? What's going on? Export animation. I may have messed something up. Alright, let me just close CentOS Tools and open it again. Not sure what's going on. Export animation. Why is it doing this? You may need to reinstall Havoc Content Tools. Oh. Alright folks, so I'm gonna pick up where I left off. I'm not sure why Havoc wasn't, or 3ds Max wasn't detecting Havoc on my system. But I'm gonna go ahead and export it again. Under Gore Beast, I'm gonna go ahead and press OK. And I'm gonna run all config, no warnings, no errors, close. I'm gonna show you my, we can close this. Let me go ahead and show you my Gore Beast model folder. And there is the HKX file at 904, created at 904. So I'm going to go back to my model editor and import it. So I know I said I wouldn't say this again, but again, this is just a video just to show you how streamlined the process is for transferring models and animations from other games. It's not intended to show you why we do what we do. For now, just take it for what it is, and then on the video guides that I'll be making in the future, they'll have the details on how this is done. So there's the animation. There's our idle animation. Great. So what we want to do is we want to pack this. As you can see, these are tests. But essentially, we would usually have a set of animations here, and then we pack them into one compressed animation file, and that should be named according to the .model file. So let me go back to where I have these. This is the DoW2 mod folder that I have these under. So the model I'm going to test in game is model 3. That's the one we actually, is this recording? Okay, so that's the one we've been working on for this tutorial, and that's the one we're going to test on. So I'm going to create a packed animation file. This is this file. I'm going to name it GoreBeast3. So that's actually going to contain the set of animations that are going to be applied in game for this model. Now that alone isn't enough. I'll need to create a motions tree. So a motions tree is basically gives instructions to the game, the engine, to sort of as to which animation to do when. So yeah, I'm just gonna use a motion tree that I already have from my trials before this video. So I'm gonna name it GoreBeast3. So now we have 3 important files: the model file itself, which has the mesh, the rig. Right, I can even show it. So it has the mesh. This is the mesh. I can hide it. I can show it. It has the rig, the bones, and it has the rights and the materials here, so we can see those as well. Let me see if I can. Anyways, so here are the materials. I'm just using the diffusion texture with the DoW2 unit shader, along with the single idle animation. So, And then I just created a motion tree, which is basically going to tell the model to, or tell the game to do an idle animation when the model is indeed in idle state. So let me just reopen this and you'll see the motion tree loaded. So here it is. Now, this motion tree is, okay, I'm not sure what happened with the animations. Core piece 3. Okay, so that's the problem. I made a mistake when naming it. It should be a core piece, or else this won't detect this. Let me open it again. And we should see our animation here. There's our idle animation. And so I'm gonna, just to test it in game, I'm going to use the range burst motion tree. Again, this is just for testing. And I have under stationary, understand, under not pivoting, I have this idle animation reference core beast. Okay. Again, this isn't the video to explain why this is what it is. That's in the future. Alright, so I'm just gonna pause here to open Cope's tools because it's located in another folder with like sensitive information. Alright, so I got my Cope's mod tools open. I'm gonna go ahead and open the mod. I'm working on the Codex edition, which is built on the Destroyer mod. Give it a moment. I'm always a bit paranoid about this thing not recording. Alright. So, just because I worked on this before the video, so I already have my the Gorbis model. It's loaded under, or it's rendered. It's rendered under my Space Marine Heroes under the Chaplain. So there it is, Gorbis 3, Gorbis 2. So I'm going to use 3 just to prove that this is the one we've been working on. Now, as long as I have this going, I also gave him a weapon animator that's going to animate range burst. So let's test it out and see what happens. Yeah. I hope you guys can see the game when it pops up. I think you should be able to, because I'm recording my entire screen. Alright, what? DoW2. Hold on a sec. Just make sure I have the right settings. Oh, right. So it does mod. However, it doesn't. I have my blue light filter on, so you can see the good old Destroyer mod. Alright, whatever. Yeah, I get it. Oof, let me turn this thing down. Alright, I gotcha. No. Custom games. Oh, what's this? Alright, so Space Marines. Oh, so yeah, so this is what I want to sort of demonstrate. When we export the model direct, okay, let me just load the games just so you can see. Let me make this a 2-player game. Alright, so essentially what happened is I took the model straight from Blender, I got it into 3ds Max, and then right into the game as you saw, right into as a .model file. I should have done something as regards scaling or resetting the rig scale. So let me just load this and you'll see what happens. This is the Gorbis. As you can see, it's animating, but it's all like mashed together. That's because the actual animation is very small in scale, whereas the model, the actual mesh wasn't scaled down. So to fix this, I'm gonna go back to my 3ds Max. I hope I still have the scene open. Alright, so I'm just gonna reset this. I'm gonna import the actual model. Import the actual model we just were using. Import. Give it a moment. It's massive. I'm so paranoid about this thing not recording. Alright. We all have our forms of paranoia. Anytime now. Alright, there it is. So it's all like jagged like this because I didn't import smoothing groups, because with 3ds Max 2010 CentOS tool sometimes runs into errors when trying to import smoothing groups. So I've just applied group 32. It doesn't matter which one you choose, as long as you apply it to the entire mesh. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and select the rig and show you what was wrong with it. So what you're gonna see in here is exactly what you saw in the game. So I'm going to open my schematic view. I'm going to select everything with the okay, I'm just going to select everything and I'm going to deselect. Let me delete this so they don't confuse me. So I'm going to select everything, Control A, and I'm going to deselect the actual mesh. So now when I go back to Bone Tools and I reset scale, you're going to see something interesting. So this is exactly what happened in the game. And that's because I didn't reset the scale in the stretch. I don't think stretch is that necessary. I honestly don't know what that it has an effect. I think it does because I've noticed it. I think it does have an effect. You want to reset both of these. So, okay, now how do you fix this? Well, this is the part that I've spent, a week ripping my hair out over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the skin modifier of this mesh. Oh, and it brings back memories of all the trial and error. And I would uncheck always deform, and there you go. Our model's back in shape. So I'm going to export it again. Export options, make sure go deselect and export model. Takes some time. Where's my model editor? There it is. So let me open the model again. As you can see, the model is back in here, still the same scale. But just a note, you shouldn't use the model editor as an indication of what's going to appear in the game because they work on completely different engines. So I'll just open the game to demonstrate that the scaling is indeed working fine now. Alright, so I'm launching the game. So a lot of things have been cached, so it should load fairly quickly. There it is. So good old stern guard from Destroyer. Private. There it is. Wow. A fully working, properly animated model that's completely not native to Dawn of War 2. And just to show that it works in game. Yeah, I can't describe how it felt when I first got this to work. But again, as a disclaimer, I'm not condoning you do any of this. But I know modders will do it anyways. Modders rather. So I'm just demonstrating how it's done. There's nothing illegal about demonstrating it, at least I don't think. So there's our model. So obviously it doesn't animate when it moves, as you can see, but when it's still idle, it animates properly. Let's get a close up. Let me go to the edge because I can actually zoom in closer here. Alright. So, alright. Why is it? Okay. So it wasn't moving because it was next to cover and there's no animation for when it's next to cover. But when not in cover, the animation works just fine. And you may have noticed these scouts with omni-axis. I was testing something. So there it is. Okay, so let me shut this down and just show you what I meant when I said don't let the model editor be indicative of anything that you're going to see in the game, because despite the model scale and the animations working properly in game, you're going to see something interesting here. When I select this, look at that. What happens essentially is when I scaled the model's mesh, I actually didn't scale the when I reset the rig's scale and stretch, I didn't do so for the animation. You may have noticed. So that's one of the reasons why it does this in model editor, but in the game it does the whole resetting by itself for the animations as well, so we don't have to worry about that. Yeah, so that's essentially how it's done. Just trying to think if there's something else. Yeah, so this is by no means a comprehensive tutorial. It's just meant to show you how streamlined the process is. I do intend to make more comprehensive tutorials on how to set up your modding environment, your essentials tools, so this is your model editor, your essentials model editor, your scopes toolbox, and then how to set up essentials tools for 3ds Max as well, and how to edit the model and the animations within 3ds Max. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, I look forward to making more video guides. Alright guys. If I can only find the recorder. Alright, there it is. Alright guys, take care.